Hey, Des, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. How are you going?
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to see what you've prepared for me today because I have no clue.
Well, that's good. There's nothing too strenuous, so don't stress. But for some people who don't know much about you, can you give a bit of a background of who you are and what you do? I've heard people refer to you as the branding queen, which is cool.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, for some reason that came about in 2017 as I was starting my business. Somebody called me that and it just stuck throughout the years. I even trademarked it at some point. But yeah, my name is Dobreva. That's not my full name, but I just like making things easy for people sometimes. So I come from Bulgaria. I've had my business for a little over half a decade now. And I'm all about disrupting the status quo, stepping outside the lines and the stereotypes, especially all the industry norms that are being set, in particular upon women. As you know, that's it's quite an interesting space for us.
Yep.
And I love powerful brands and recurring revenue streams so that they can have a stable and exciting business.
Awesome. So is your target market mainly females, or do you work with men as well, or all different types of people? Or
I've never limited it. I do work with absolutely anyone. For whatever reason, we do attract more women than men. But yeah, no, I work with everyone, including animals.
I'm just imagining all these animals having their own recurring subscription plans.
I cannot wait to start working with a cat that wants its own membership.
And I believe you have 2 cats of your own. Is that right?
Yes. Well, they own me, but yes.
And one of them, I think, is a rescue, or
they both are. Yeah,
they both are.
They both have their own brands, their own Instagram accounts. They're the real deal.
Amazing. And okay, cool. So what you mentioned, you grew up in Bulgaria. What was that like?
No, it's like, do you have 5 hours? It was tough. It was interesting. I left. Oh my God, I left almost 10 years ago. That is crazy. I was 22 and I left to study abroad because I just, many people in Bulgaria leave for search of a better future. And then some of them plan on coming back and having well-paid jobs, and some of them plan to stay abroad. My plan was to come back and have a nice little job paying me $2,000 a month. And that was like the pinnacle of it all for me. That was my dream.
Yeah.
But I was raised to settle because my parents were raised to settle and their parents were raised to settle. So I wasn't really taught much about money or ambition or any of that, or business, entrepreneurship. There'd never been any entrepreneurs in my family. Most of my family didn't even graduate high school. When I went abroad, I went to Denmark to study. This whole new world opened up to me, and I was like, what? People get to live like this? That's where the first spark came from for me, just seeing how other people live and what's possible.
Amazing. And what made you decide to study abroad? Like we mentioned, you didn't come from a family that was particularly entrepreneurial or finished high school even. What do you think sparked that interest to go abroad?
My parents are both physiotherapists, and I think one of their biggest regrets is that they never went abroad to work because doctors in Bulgaria in general, you know how there's a couple of different professions that should be respected the most and paid the most, and I think that's teachers and doctors. It's the opposite in Bulgaria, so it's quite a tough space for that profession, and I think they really regretted for their whole life not learning any languages so that they are able to immigrate. So that's why when I was 6, they signed me up to study English, and that's where my passion for, I speak 5 languages, that's where my passion for languages came from. And so I think when you start speaking another language so well, like my dream since I was a child was to live and breathe English. Like I just wanted everything in my life to be in English. I was obsessed with watching all these shows and all these movies and reading all the books in English. Like I fully stopped reading books in Bulgarian when I was 15 or 16. And I think when that happens to you, it's kind of like a natural progression to not want to stay where you came from.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like it, ignites in you the possibility of, what's out there and, what can I achieve and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think a lot of people whose first language is English, for example, or Spanish, which is also so widely spoken across the world, they don't realize just how much of a difference it makes to someone's life who is not a native English or Spanish or whatever speaker when they learn that language. Like this whole new world opens up to you, and you're able to partake in so many other things.
That's really true. That's something I definitely haven't thought about until you just mentioned it then. Yeah, being an English speaker.
There you go.
So, yeah, that's super cool. It's super cool that your parents, had that foresight to go, we didn't do what we wanted, but we're going to give our life, our daughter a different life. That's really, really cool.
Yeah, I think that's what's always driven them. I mean, we couldn't afford to send me to study abroad, obviously. Bulgaria is one of the poorest nations in Europe, and Denmark is one of the most expensive ones. So I later found out they had to take up all kinds of loans and not just from banks, but from like loan sharks and stuff like that. And they really have done everything they can to give me the life that and not even the life they didn't have, because I don't think they could have possibly imagined what my life could even be, because as I said, we were taught to settle. They just thought they'd give me something a little bit better, but they ended up giving me just everything beyond what we could have possibly imagined.
Wow, that's awesome. And so do you think that gave you a real push to be like, I want to make something of myself because they've sacrificed so much for me? Or
yeah, it was a really big driving force when I was in my early to mid 20s in Denmark, because it is very hard for an Eastern European to make it there. I mean, you're not exactly respected. You're not exactly treated amazingly. People look at you like you're beneath them a lot of, like, don't get me wrong, they're very polite. They're very nice. But there's always that thing, like they may not even consciously be aware of it, but you are, because you can see it in their eyes. So I went through a lot of that, and I went through, not being able to find a job to support myself. So that's how I started washing dishes for a living, to make sure that they can stop sending me money, because they were getting bankrupt because of I couldn't find a job, And I remember when I was walking out of the place, I had to learn Danish in 6 months to do the interview for this dishwashing job. And I went out after the guy, I think, told me that I had the job, and I started crying, and I called my mom, and I was like, Mom, it happened. Like it's the best thing in the world. I have a job. You can stop sending me money. And that's one of my best memories from Denmark. I just didn't have a choice, I couldn't even afford the plane ticket back home. So I literally could not fail.
Yeah. And I think, that's such an amazing story, but I think that's such a testament to, the entrepreneur life is like, when you're in a situation, you're like, well, I've got no option. I have to make this work. And there's like a fire under your ass to just, push you forward. And I think as challenging as that can be, it's also like a really amazing gift because it pushes you forward.
Yeah. And now that you've said that, I remember one of the things that I always say to my clients, because I primarily work with people from the UK and the US, sometimes Canada and Australia. And we all know that that's part of the world that's very privileged, and where you do have lots of choices typically. Like the average person has a lot more opportunities than the average person from Eastern Europe. And I always tell my clients who are like struggling to show up online or to sell or all of these things, like to build a brand. I always tell them, like, that's because you have choices. Like nobody is telling you right now, if you don't launch the software, you're not going to be able to pay your mortgage. Like nobody came to you and said, like, if you don't do this, you're going to be homeless. But that was literally the life I was living. So I think it really helps to try and imagine that we don't have a choice when we're trying to put ourselves online in the beginning. It becomes more about having fun and enjoying ourselves and doing it from the place of passion. But I think in the beginning, when you're trying to motivate yourself and when you have so much going for you, like you can easily not make this business work and just get a high paid job. When you're in that position, I think it really helps to look deep within and try to think as if this was your only path in life. And that tends to motivate people a lot more. than anything else I've seen.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think too, like you can even set yourself up so that you put yourself in a position, I guess sort of like you did, but maybe by choice, someone could put themselves in a position where they have to, you know, make this work, you know, and give themselves some accountability or, you know, different things like that to really give them the greatest chance of success, you know, whether it's moving to another country or another state in their hometown or, you know, just something to give them that push.
Yeah, I find that for a lot of my clients, that's their kids tend to be the ultimate reason for them to want to be better and do better. So yeah, that tends to be a big thing because most of my clients, I think they have a family, and providing for your family, I mean, what's a bigger driver than that, right?
Yeah, that's really true. And so you were living in Bulgaria and then you moved to Denmark to study. Were you studying branding or? Yeah, nice. And then you moved to London, where you're currently based. Is that right?
There,
a few more stops.
Yeah, a few more stops. I think as soon as I got that dishwashing job, I had, well, actually, I didn't yet, but after that job, I got a little part-time gig as a social media manager in Copenhagen. And that gave me just enough spare money to start traveling for the first time in my life. And so I went a little bit mad. And I was like, every month I had to be somewhere because it was so cheap to travel. It literally, there were flights for €10 that you can take all around Europe on Ryanair. And when I saw that, I was like, I'm doing it. I'm going to stay in the cheapest hostels, Airbnbs. I don't care. I'm going to see the world. So I did that for a bit while still living in Denmark. But then my boyfriend and I, we got ourselves into this position where our landlord decided to kick us out for absolutely no reason. I think he was doing some illegal stuff, who knows? And he just decided he wanted some people who pay more. So he said, you have a month or something, or 2 months to vacate the premises. And at that point, I had started freelancing and I was making maybe, I want to say, not more than $1,500 a month. But it was enough to get the hell out of there and go somewhere else. So we went to Barcelona, stayed there for a bit. I focused on growing the freelancing gig. And then went to Malta for 6 months. And that is where I really focused on, okay, I'm not a freelancer anymore. I want to be a business owner. I want to launch my own offers. I want to build a brand on social media, ditch Upwork, you know. And after that, it was Thailand for almost a year, where we adopted Lucifer, our black cat, from a shelter. And then there was Edinburgh. And then there was London.
Awesome. And what, if you could pick one, what would have been the favorite place, or are they all quite different?
London.
Nice.
Interesting. I quite liked Thailand. How do I put this in a way that doesn't sound offensive and arrogant? I was in Chiang Mai, which is a fantastic place. There were a lot of like beautiful vegan food. It's obviously so cheap, massages, the culture is great. But because of that, it was also full of people who were not really very ambitious in wanting to grow a super successful business. They just wanted to make enough money to live on a semi-okay life. And that's when I realized for the first time in my life how important your environment is when you're trying to build something big and something important. And I just couldn't do that there because your environment impacts you. You know, if you're not pushed, it's just a little bit tougher. And I don't think there's an environment that's going to push you more than the one in London.
Yeah. Is there like a big sort of entrepreneur network that you're part of that's inspiring you and pushing you, or how did you decide on London to be based?
Actually, the landlord in Edinburgh decided to live in or sell his house or something. So it was kind of like a similar thing to Denmark. He was like, okay, leave. And it was in the middle of the pandemic, and we were like, well, we'll leave, but we'll leave the country too. Where can we go that's a more interesting place that has more going on? Because Scotland is amazing. how do I say this? It's an amazing place to retire in business, and there just wasn't much going on even in the capital, and London just kind of popped into our minds. And London is, yeah, probably half of my clients live here or around, so I kind of created my own network here, and a lot of the people you see online who are absolutely killing it in our industry live here or close. So it's been great for just having a nice social life and having meetups with my clients and making friends. And obviously, it's one of the most expensive freaking places ever, which pushes you even more to just never drop the ball on growing, you know? And that's really important to me. I like to be challenged at all times.
Yeah, I think that's really important to be challenged, especially in business. It helps you grow. I had another guest on the podcast recently, and we talked about, you know, you never really level up to the next level unless you're like experiencing a lot of fear, or maybe I said that wrong. Anytime you get to the next level, yeah, you're going to just encounter a lot of fear, and it's going to push you, and it's not a sign to, you know, drop back. It's a sign to push forward of, okay, you know, yep, there's more challenges. Yep, there's fear, but we're going to push through this and grow. Yeah.
Yeah. I always say that it's kind of like to step into the next version of yourself, you have to recalibrate yourself. Like you cannot achieve the next thing and the next thing and the next thing by staying the same person. You have to recalibrate and step into the next version of yourself every single time you achieve something. And it almost sounds overwhelming when I put it like that, but when you're going through it, it doesn't feel overwhelming because you're doing it with passion and from a place of genuine just, yes, this is my life. This is for me. I get to do this. Nobody's forcing me. I have all the power. I think people forget sometimes that you have, well, depends on who you are, where you are, of course, but you know, the average people in the Western world, you have all the power.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think too, like, you know, you mentioned, you know, you studied and then you did freelancing and then you started your own business. It's like, you know, we level up in stages. It's not like we go from 0 to 100 overnight. You know, we level up in stages and we grow and we learn. And so when you have kind of that trajectory, it's like, okay, like I can just get to the next step, then like take a break and then, okay, yep, get to the next step. And build your business and evolve that way, I think can be really, really cool, because then you're building a solid foundation as well.
Yeah, that's fully what I believe in. I know that there's a lot of people out there talking about the quantum leaps and all of this stuff, but the problem I see with that is you can't just take someone who, for example, is starting their business and go and say, and this is a real comment I saw on Facebook a few weeks ago. Somebody was saying, you know, I make 20 or 30K per year in this business, like it's really not going well, and looking for ways to grow more sustainably. And someone who teaches business went and said, well, so just start making 30K per month instead of 30K per year, just quantum leap. That's really all you need to do. And I was reading this like, all you've done is massively overwhelmed this person, made them feel like they're a failure because they have no clue how to do that. And it's not sustainable. Like that person is 100% not ready to go from making 30K a year to 30K a month. Like there's a lot of growth that needs to happen, like mental growth in between those steps. So like you said, I am 100% for sustainable growth, even if it means growing slower.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And I think too, I mean, there's that famous saying of Rome wasn't built in a day, but it also didn't come down in a day. And that's something that I like to remember of, like, you know, your business isn't going to just completely crash overnight. You know, it's taking these small steps and building it over time. And then it'll just be better in the long run.
That's a good saying. I hadn't heard that one.
I can't claim it. I heard it from someone else, but yeah, it was cool to be like, oh, okay, yeah, because I think there's this tendency to freak out of like, what if I lose all my clients, or what if something happens? And you know, I think it's important to have procedures and plans in place for when stuff does go wrong, but also to remember, like, it's not going to all just dissolve and disappear overnight.
Yeah, it's all about trust, isn't it? Like trust in what you've, not just what you're building, but in what you've built already. And more importantly, trust that no matter what happens, no matter what you lose, no matter what comes crashing down, you'll be fine and you'll just rebuild. I think people are really not feeling enough trust in themselves, because trust is not really about other people, right? It's about us feeling like we're going to be okay no matter what. And when that's missing, it's exactly like you said, like you're going to live in this perpetual state of fear, even if you're killing it. Like when I started making, I think I was making like 200K a year at that point, a few years ago. I was freaking out all the time. I was like, oh my God, can I keep this up? Oh, I need to now hustle more, work more, do more, get more clients, because what if I lose all of this? And that's because I just didn't trust. I didn't have any trust and respect, and I didn't honor my progress of what I'd already built.
And it's interesting you say that. And what do you think helped you transition to a more trust-based mindset?
My clients played a huge part in that, because somehow, and this is a very unexplained phenomenon to this day, but from almost the very beginning of my business, I started attracting these very spiritual, amazing people who are so much more evolved than I was. They just didn't understand business the way I did. So while I thought I was helping them, they were helping me probably 10 times more. And there's this thing they kept telling me for the last 3 or 4 years. And this is like dozens of different people who've never met each other. Des, you're spiritual. You just don't know it. Des, like, you understand this, but you find out when you're ready. And then New Year's Eve this year, I was down with COVID for the gazillionth time. And I had a lot of time to think. And I don't know what triggered it and how it happened. I just think when you're left alone with your mind for like 2 weeks, lying on a couch, being like, can't even eat, can't even work, your thoughts tend to go like this, there's waves. And I just started realizing how much I'm not seeing about myself and how much I'm not seeing about my business. And I started thinking, what is my actual goal here? Who do I really want to be? Not what do I want to achieve? Who do I want to be when I'm achieving it? And this really started this whole process of self-realization. And my mind immediately flew back to so many of the things my clients had told me that I didn't understand at the time, that now I do. And funnily enough, it even led me to create brand new offers and start teaching business in a brand new way that's now infused with so much more energetics and so much more mindset, just because I understand now. Something that I didn't understand for half a decade, I finally understand. And they played such a big part in that. I just think, there comes a moment, and sometimes it's a quick moment, like a flash, where you go from not getting something to, oh my God. And all it takes is just one spark of understanding. And then everything just starts, it's like puzzle pieces being put together finally. I don't know if this makes any sense, but
totally. No, I'm just eating it all up. I totally know what you mean. And it's something that I think like is helpful to remember, especially for myself, is, it's easy to connect the dots looking backwards, but not always looking forwards. But yeah, what you said about all the puzzle pieces clicking together, and it's something that you sort of have to do looking back, and to have all of those steps beforehand with, interacting with clients, and to have all of that in the lead up would have, contributed to that light bulb moment, which is really cool.
It was probably one of the biggest shifts, if not the biggest shifts I've ever had in my life. And it led me to understand just how important it is, not just to give people business advice and marketing advice and branding advice, but to help and teach people how to become better leaders in their own life and in their business. Because when you're a great leader, it's become so much easier to build a successful business because people trust you.
Yeah, totally. And so, okay, so let's switch back to say, what inspired you then to get into branding? I mean, it's very clear you're super passionate about it. How did you discover branding, or how did you go, yeah, that's something I want to work in? Because I know you do a lot of psychology and neuroscience in your branding, which is really cool. And you mentioned disrupting the market through branding, which is really cool. So what inspired you to get into branding?
I've been interested in branding since I was a teenager. I don't remember what, and that makes me so sad that I don't remember what initially sparked the interest and where I even learned the concept. But I remember myself being 15 years old and watching Gossip Girl. And instead of seeing what everybody else was seeing in this super superficial show about money and power and sex and whatever, I was looking at it and I was thinking, oh my God, like I love the brand that Blair has built for herself and blah, blah, blah. And I was sitting there watching the show thinking about branding and about like how powerful branding is. And then fast forward a few years later when I started thinking about, well, actually quite a lot of years later, because while I was interested in it, nowhere in Bulgaria was it ever taught. It was just so new, so not a single university. So unfortunately, I spent 4 years of my life studying economics, which, as you can probably tell, is the worst thing someone like me can study. It completely stifles your creativity. You know, I can barely count, and I had to do math and statistics, and oh God. So somehow I passed that, just like I somehow passed high school. And then when there came a time to do my master's, I was sitting and reading about, I really wanted to study branding. I thought like branding is so important. It can literally change your life in a second, not in a second, but it can change your life because you can go from being someone who is not confident at all, who is shy, who's afraid to express themselves. But then when you decide that you want to build a brand for yourself that is the exact opposite of that, you can pull that off. And that's exactly what I did. So I was very, if you ever see a photo of me from anywhere before my mid-20s, I am platinum blonde with pink lip gloss and fancy, not cheap, but fancy looking pink clothes. So I essentially look like a Barbie doll because that's what our culture pushes women to look like in Eastern Europe. Be the perfect Barbie doll and keep your opinions to yourself, preferably, and be perfect in every other sense of the word. So I fully rebuilt myself to go from that to this. It took time. It took quite a lot of time, but the process had started. And that's when I started looking into studying for my master's and what I wanted to do. And I thought, well, if it changed my life so much, I wonder what I can do for other people if I learn how to do it for them. And that's how I found the university in Denmark and then one in Sweden. Funnily enough, not a single thought crossed my mind about coming to the UK. Never even an idea because I thought people hated us here. They had this really horrible, like I think he was prime minister or something, and he said a lot of bad things about Bulgarians and Romanians. And I thought, fuck this place, I don't want to go there. So I went to Denmark instead, and now that I live in London for the last year and a half, I'm just looking back thinking, what the hell was wrong with me? Like I could have come here in the first place, but you know, I don't regret a single thing. I think every single step you've taken in your journey makes you who you are, and everything happens when it happens for a reason. So there must be some sort of reason that I'm here now.
Totally. I wonder whether, you would have, shifted in those big ways and recreated yourself if you'd just come straight to London, or whether you might not have even enjoyed it at that time. Like, I don't know. You're absolutely right that everything happens.
Not to mention, I was dead broke, so I probably wouldn't even have been able to London, to be fair.
Yeah, and then you might have just gone and gotten a job, and you never would have created this incredible empire.
Actually, that's exactly what happened, probably.
Yeah. It's life's funny like that. And so, okay, interesting. So you were this platinum blonde Barbie, and then you started to shift into who you are now, which is an incredible person. I love that you really push back against the haters and the cyberbullying and people who are just really negative online, especially. And what do you think helped you transition from being, that I don't know if you were quiet and didn't speak out when you were in Bulgaria, but you mentioned that was the culture. What do you think helped you shift into sort of being more outspoken and confident and today?
When I was 19, I was in my first year of university where I was studying economics, and I didn't really know anyone there. So I was pretty much on my own for the first few months. And I was in a really low space because I was being cyberbullied on Facebook at the time, and, text messages from anonymous numbers and things like that. And this is why I always say to people, if you are going to respond to trolls and people who are attacking you and people whose only goal is to get some sort of a reaction from you, either don't or only do it if you're able to fully emotionally detach and just have some fun with it, which is what I do today. But when I was 19, it was a whole different story. Like, you're a child, you know, you're still a teenager. So I started engaging with this person or these people. To this day, I don't know who that was. And it didn't lead to anything good. And so that's when I almost took my own life. And I think when you reach a point that is so low that you've literally hit rock bottom, the only way from there is up. And what saved my life was partly thinking about my parents and partly just thinking it doesn't have to be like this. I do have a choice here. Why the hell am I choosing to just give up? I mean, I may only be 19 years old and not know much about life, but at least I have a life. Many other people are not as lucky as I am, which was a hard thing to realize at the time because we were so poor and, you know, things were not good. But I think that spark of like, I can do something with my life that never leads me to this place again is what kept me going. And that was the start of me learning the importance of emotionally detaching. It took some more years, but by the time I was in my mid 20s, 26, 27 maybe, that's when I fully understood the power of it. And that's also when I started my business and started getting this onslaught of like attacks, because when you're a woman and you're outspoken and you look different than most other business women, you're going to get it. You know, you're going to get a lot of hate. You're going to get people feeling uncomfortable, people wanting to put you in a box to make themselves feel more comfortable. And I had to very quickly adapt to that new environment if I wanted to survive and thrive in it. And so, yeah, I didn't think that I had a choice. So that's what I did. And I'm lucky that I get to, well, not lucky, blessed that I get to now help my clients deal with this, because a lot of them struggle when they come to me and they just are so afraid of putting themselves out there because of what might happen if someone doesn't like it.
Yeah, wow. That's so interesting how toxic all of this, you know, cyberbullying and stuff can be. It's like there's no need for it. And I get that people are hurting and that, but to externalize it is just, it sucks, you know, and that it would push you to, you know, consider taking your own life is just, I think people don't always realize the impact that their actions and their words have on other people. And it's a shame, especially you mentioned being a woman in business. It's definitely challenging, and hopefully something that will change in future years.
Yeah, I don't think it will.
No.
I don't think it will. There's a lot of people out there who blame me for my view on things, because what I want to do is, for me, it's all about helping people build confidence. Like, I know I'm not a mindset coach or anything. I'm a business mentor, but my main goal in life is to make the world a more confident place. That's my purpose. And the same goes for anyone who comes into my sphere, like anyone who works with me, who speaks to me. And I truly believe that confidence saves lives. It saved mine because I had that spark of confidence telling me, you can do this, like you can do better. You don't have to take it all away to stop hurting. You can push through the pain and you can trust that you'll survive it. So I think that the way, not out of this, but the way forward is to just build that confidence in children, in teenagers, because then you become a confident adult who will never go and bully someone else because you're in pain. But a lot of people are out there trying to convince me that we need to eradicate bullying. And it's like, you cannot eradicate bullying or sexual abuse or any of that, because there will always be people in pain. It's like, how short-sighted can we be to ever believe that we can change that? There will always be pain in the world, because bullying is born out of pain. It's not like I was going to say maybe it's born out of evil, but evil is also born out of pain. You know, pain is like the driver behind it all. So I like my way better, and I'm going to keep doing my way, because at least I'm not naive enough to think that, oh my God, I'm going to just eradicate all the pain from the world.
Yeah. And I think to even attempt that would be incredibly overwhelming because, I mean, one, it's so out of your control to change the world in that magnitude, but also, yeah, it's just focus on what you can control and what you can change and making a difference where you can, you know, with your clients or with whoever. And I think it's super exciting when you have a network of people around you who like cheering each other on and building each other up. It's really special because it unfortunately is quite rare in this world.
Yeah, it is, sadly. And that's why memberships and building communities is such a big part of what I do, because I kind of started my business almost with a community, like a paid community, without really having any clue what I was doing. But really, what I wanted to do was create a safe space for other entrepreneurs who were, you know, going on this journey, maybe alone, maybe they didn't have a support network. I didn't have a big support network at all, and so I knew how lonely it could be. And to be honest, I was really demotivated by what I was seeing online. There's just a lot of dishonesty and a lot of people just not being very transparent. And I wanted to not necessarily change that, because I know I can't, but lead a different way in my own world. And that's when I started my own community. And then later on, when I realized the true power, because like you said, people who cheer each other on, who build each other up, that's what I created somehow. And I wanted to help others create that too, to create that type of a ripple effect of there is a better way to be in business. There is a better way to exist. Even you get to have support, you get this sense of togetherness, like you can have it all. That's really what I try to put forward, is that you can have it all.
Yeah. And I think that is probably what's been a huge key to your success, is to be authentic and to build people up and to build a community. And then all of those people are then going to go out and do that too in their communities with their clients. And it has, like you said, this ripple effect, which is really exciting, because that is how the world will change, you know, by and large, is individual people, you know, doing what they can to make the world a better place. And yeah, it's really cool.
Exactly.
Yeah. Amazing. And so what do you think has helped you overcome, like we've sort of talked about a lot of the challenges you faced, what do you think has helped you overcome them and stay motivated? Sort of, you mentioned, I think you've been in business over 10 years now.
Oh, no, actually, it's been about 6.
6 years.
I will be very excited when it's been 10, because then I can say I've been doing this for a decade. No, it's not even that long. But the thing about that is I've done so much in this short amount of time. I have one of my clients, he's this amazing, successful entrepreneur. More than twice my age, and he's had this massive success, and he sold companies for like $100 million or something, I don't know. And he's been with me since almost the beginning of my business, and has been buying, you know, my offers, being in my sphere, giving me advice. And he always tells me, like, I cannot believe how much you managed to stuff into these 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, 6 years. Like, this takes people 20 years to do. But the thing with me is I'm just so eager. And it's not about hustling or anything like that. I'm just so excited about what I do, and I'm very impatient. So for me, like, if I want to try something, I'm going to try it now. So I've sold everything there is to sell in an online business. I've had all kinds of messaging while I was testing, you know, what I really believe in, what works. Like, and I know I studied marketing and I studied branding, but university gives you a very corporate understanding of these concepts. So then to take that and turn it into, like, adapt it to the online small business world has been quite challenging. So what keeps me going is, I think, just my passion for it all. Just being able to wake up every day and think, oh my God, I can't believe I get to do this again. Like, can't believe I don't ever go to work, because this is my work. I can't believe that I don't need to, like, do sales calls and feel shitty because I'm trying to convince people to buy from me. I love that I've created this brand new way of doing business, and I can't believe I get to do it every day. It's still shocking to me 5 years later, honestly.
That's amazing. And that's I think the ultimate goal of anyone or any entrepreneur is to wake up and just be excited to do what you're doing. And I think, you know, you touched on passion and I guess that relates to sort of fire and even rage and sex, and having that energy and that passion inside of you to wake up. I think that's like the end goal is to be so passionate about what you do that you still just like, I'm so grateful I get to do this, you know, not I have to, but I get to.
Yes. And I love that you said rage. And obviously that's part of the name of this podcast. Rage was actually such a big reason for why I even started doing this. I mean, rage from a both positive and negative sense. From a negative sense, I was just so angry at the world. And yeah, I was one of those very whiny, miserable people for quite a few years of my life, especially when I was in Denmark, because it was just so unfair. Life seemed so unfair to me. Like there were people all around me being like, you know, I'm broke again this month. I can't do anything. And then that same person 5 minutes later was planning a trip to Paris. You know, like these types of things really made my blood boil, because I wasn't looking inward. I was looking outward for validation, and that was not good. So I was enraged all the time, and it really showed in my behavior. And at the time I was just about to start freelancing, but I was already putting myself out on social media just as like a person, not a brand or a business. And it was not good. Thankfully, that slowly started evolving as I started growing. And then I think the rage was still there for a while, but it transformed into more of a positive thing where it was just, I think it transitioned from rage to passion, if I really look at it, because they're just as powerful. Both of these emotions are just as powerful, but one is entirely positive and one is just there to kind of get you off your ass and make you do something.
Yeah, I find rage. I suppressed my rage for a long time because similar to sort of, you know, the Bulgarian culture was just, my family culture was, you know, women should be seen but not heard. And so I just, you know, held everything in and, you know, tried to be a peacemaker. And it wasn't until the last couple of years that I've really started to let my rage and anger out. And you know, there's a lot of backlog at the beginning, but similar to you probably. But with time, it's transitioned into this fire, into this motivation, this passion to, you know, get shit done and do something really positive in the world. And I think that rage gets a really bad rap because it can be, when it's not used in a healthy way, it can be very, you know, angry or, you know, negative. But when you implement it in a positive way, like motivating you to do something in the world or in your business, it can be really, really positive and energizing, which is cool.
Definitely. If I look back, a lot of the things I started to do in my business, like launching my community, putting something out there that I felt was important, I did every single one of those things because I was enraged about something. Like I created my first community, BBS, because I was so enraged that there was so much dishonesty in the online world and people were afraid to be vulnerable. And I was like, I need to do better. There must be a better way. So that has kind of been a constant in my journey.
Yeah. That's awesome. I think that's a really good point of like, you know, rage, you know, you see a problem and you go, oh, I want to fix this. Like, yeah. And it's good. I think something I've learned to do to really, I guess, leverage my rage is growling. Or, I mean, it sounds a bit ridiculous, but, you know, like, because you think of animals and they're, you know, tigers or lions in the wild, when they're angry, they growl and they, you know, put their claws out. And like, for me to start doing that in a somatic sense has really helped me to tap into this and go, you know, when shame comes up or guilt or fear, it's like, no, back off. Like, I'm not putting up with you today kind of thing.
Love that. I suddenly imagined my cat hissing and going like, when you said that. By the way, leverage your rage. What a great name for an offer.
Yeah.
You should use that.
Yeah, I might have to. I really like love rage. It has a soft place in my heart now, but I think it's something that a lot of people are afraid of in society, and I think it's such an underutilized tool. So I really, part of why I started the podcast is I want to change that. I want to show people that rage can be this really beautiful energy source that we can use to motivate ourselves and to do something powerful. So it's exciting.
Plus, I mean, if you have rage inside of you, that means you also have passion too. And I think if only people saw it like that, they would truly understand what they were capable of.
Totally, totally. And be inspired to get to that next level of, I can do this, you know, I've got this fire, I've got this passion, I can do this. So Exactly. And so we sort of were talking a bit before about some of the offers you've got going on at the moment. Would you be able to just explain a bit about, the membership game plan or anything else you're working on?
I have two main ways that people come into my world as a paying client. And like I've said a few times, it's my community BBS. That's usually closed. We are reopening next month, so that's really exciting because it doesn't happen very often. And then the other way to work with me, if you want to kind of do what I've done and grow sustainably, like we discussed, and not have, terrifying quantum leaps that make you feel like, oh my God, what is happening? And build a more stable business centered on recurring revenue, even if you're starting from scratch. That's my recurring revenue program. It's by far one of the best things I've ever created. And it's like, essentially, I thought to myself, what would be the business school? Because I went to business school. What would be the business school I wish I went to? Like, what do I wish they taught me there? And I took that, downloaded it from my brain, took it, and turned it into the recurring revenue program. Those are the two ways to really work with me as a paying client. But as a little gift to your audience, I would love for everyone to have my membership game plan, which can kind of get you started on that whole journey and get you to really think about growing more sustainably and building a solid foundation and bringing that recurring revenue into your business.
Amazing. Thank you so much for gifting that to the audience. Where would people be able to grab that from? Is it just on your website or?
Yes, I will drop you the link so you can share it with the audience. But everything I have is on dobreva.com. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. I love that you have a recurring revenue program, because my brother and I, he's an entrepreneur. He does a lot of marketing and copywriting and email marketing, but he just mentioned a similar thing, like all of the things he's learned in business, he's realized recurring revenue is the way to go, because it's just the stability of it and to have that predictability of income coming in, and, whether it's a software program or a course or, a membership platform, I think you're absolutely doing the right thing.
It's honestly completely life-changing. Like, for anyone listening to this who's thinking, what the hell is a membership and should I have one? Honestly, guys, I had mine for 5.5 years, the first one. And if it wasn't for that, I never would have been able to leave Denmark, never would have been able to travel, never would have been able to have a full-blown business or have the freedom and the flexibility that you need to kind of experiment and test with other offers and really see what's aligned with you. So ultimately, it's freedom is what it gives you.
Amazing. And so for someone who, say, is wanting to set up a recurring revenue program, you probably go through this in your membership, but what would be some of the things that they could include?
So think of it this way. What people are essentially paying for, if you want to create a paid community like I did, is they're paying for a safe space where they get access to you as a leader, like as a coach, mentor, whatever it is you do. And they get access to this community of other people, which will become their support network, essentially. So most people who build memberships, they have all of that. And then on top of that, they have like calls that they do on Zoom. I do weekly calls in my membership, like mastermind calls. Most of my clients do 2 calls a month where you're able to join on Zoom with everybody else who joined and just get access face-to-face with the leader of the community and build a closer bond with everyone as well. And more and more big companies and organizations now are finally waking up to the power of subscription models and memberships too. So you see like cinemas and car dealerships and all kinds of nonprofits building communities now where people can come together and, discuss things and benefit more. Plus, it's a fantastic place to sell your other higher ticket offers to your members, because they're always looking for other ways to work with you. So that's probably something most people don't realize about affordable monthly memberships, that it's not just that you make, $100 per person per month. You actually, most of the people in my $5,000, $10,000 offers, they come from my membership as well.
Interesting. That's a really interesting point you made. Yeah. Sounds like a really cool setup.
Yes. You can tell I love it so much.
Yeah. And I think it's cool. Like, I think, as a business owner, to be so involved in your clients' lives and to be part of a community, and it must be so fulfilling. Like, it must be so interesting. Like, I think you mentioned earlier about you learn from your clients as well. Like, it's such like a two-way street. It's cool.
It's been insane because I never imagined I would get to work with people from 50, 60 different niches. I mean, ever since I started putting my cats front and center in my brand, for example, this is no joke. I have attracted dozens of people who not just love animals, they work with animals. Like, I have vets, I have people who work in animal communication, I have people who work with animal nutrition. I have 3 or 4 clients who only work with cats.
Wow.
It's incredible. So yeah, and they're starting their own memberships now, which is the best thing ever. And something that a lot of people didn't have the confidence to do before, because they were thinking, oh my God, who would pay for this? People pay hundreds of dollars a month to learn how to garden, like to learn how to knit, from memberships. Of course, they would pay you for things like helping their cat live longer, or, getting mindset advice from you. Literally anything can be turned into a membership. And as you said, yeah, it's such a great way to play a bigger part in your clients' lives without necessarily having a big time commitment involved in that, which for me has been really massive.
Yeah, amazing. I think it just comes back to, being yourself, being authentic. You mentioned when you started sharing about your cats and they're a big part of your life, it brings in all these incredible people who resonate with that. And I think that's the power of being authentic is, you might push some people away who don't resonate, but that's probably a really good thing, and then you bring in those other people who are like, oh, like I can really connect and identify with her and what she's putting out. So I think that's really cool.
Mm-hmm. My entire presence is built as a filter brand because it filters out immediately, as fast as humanly possible, everyone who is not right for me. And it speaks that much louder to those who are. You just have to learn to not be afraid of doing that, because the more vanilla you are, the more people who are not right for you, you're going to attract. And the thing is, like, some of them will pay you. Some of them will absolutely become your clients, but it's not going to lead to good results for them. It's not going to lead to good testimonials for you. Some of them might ask for a refund. That's what happens when you work with the wrong people. And I think when you understand the cost of working with the wrong people, that's when you start being unafraid to put yourself out there in a way that filters them out.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And that's a big part of what you mentioned earlier about disrupting. It's like if everyone, in a sea of vanilla branding, you've got to, go against the grain and do something different. So I think that's really good advice. So
thank you.
Well, we're almost on time for today. Where can people find out more about you and connect with you?
I am on all social media plus my website as Dobreva. That's DESGOBREVA. And there you can see all my offers, all my free stuff that I would love for you to take advantage of. And I am the most active on Facebook and Instagram. So definitely connect with me there.
Amazing. I'm really excited to see, just how this all grows and the next few years for you. I think it's going to be awesome, and you'll be at the 10-year mark in no time.